Hello everybody, it's the Oldbear, the Oldbear's Den of Bigfoot again. And we're out here today where this all started for me. This is the area where at age 16 I saw Bigfoot. And just back over my right shoulder, right straight out in there. About 300 yards away is where I seen that Bigfoot. We come out here today to do this video for y'all, and we hope you enjoy it. And you'll see that it's about a cryptid that I've not seen out here, but it is a cryptid. This comes from a viewer, subscriber on my channel. And he has his own YouTube channel. It's called Kashmir Daily Vlogs. And let's get started with his report, what he saw. He said he's 41 years old, born and bred in London, England. He'd never really traveled, but for the past few years I've traveled significantly with his mother and his daughter abroad. Says my encounter was something I still cannot get over even after all these years. And ever so often I would have a vivid nightmare and wake up sweating and in a panic attack. It affected him to the point where he would wake up with nightmares. It affected his eating, sleeping, traveling or socializing with people. He just couldn't do it. He says, I could never understand what I actually saw, although the closest thing I could think of was a werewolf. Yes, I know it's crazy, but that's what I encountered. So some years back, his mother and him decided to travel to Kashmir. That's northern India, for those that don't know. And India and Pakistan fight over that region constantly, but it's actually within the borders of India. They went there to visit with family and cousins, stuff like that. They booked tickets a month later after they decided to go, and they were heading to Heathrow Airport, and got on a flight and landed at Islamabad Airport. He said it was hot and the air was dry as soon as we got out of the airport. He said I started sweating within 10 minutes, but I enjoyed what I was looking at. Everything was different. The people, the buildings, etc. He said our driver was there waiting for us, and seeing him made me smile as I haven't seen him in decades. My mother always told me to purchase or build a holiday home there, so we met a few people and made some arrangements. So within a few days we had bought the plot of land and already had builders wanting to start the project. We gave the go-ahead, and the design of the house and his uncle dealt with it. The house was getting ready, and I really wanted to go around and see the place and what kind of animals are there. I've always had my cousin with me as he is born there and knows where to go and how to talk to people. On this day he was at work, so he decided to go by himself and decided he was going to go to the east side of the mountain. There's rivers and forests, but his plan wasn't to go too far into that area. So he got the camera ready and charged and head out with some snacks. He said it was a hot, dry day and the sun was shining, and birds chirping, and it was so beautiful and amazing, and I was very excited. My mother asked me where I was going, and I told her to explore around the right side, which is east. And she said to be careful and don't accept no food from anyone. She gave me her prayers, and I left. I went down our road, and at the end turned right, but it's not what you are thinking about the road structure, as it's a very low quality road, and there are lots of trees, brush, and big rocks everywhere. First, let me give you a quick layout of the land. The place has trees, rocks, and brush everywhere, and the houses are very spread out. It's a village, and with a small population of people. There are no shopping centers or any entertainment places here. It's 80% remote. There are wolves, wild boars, leopard, rabbit, bears, wild dogs, monkeys, or whatever they are called, and some other animals. 80 to 90 kilometers away, there are Asiatic lions too. The landscape is up and down, with really big mountains and many rivers, ravines, forests, big rocks, and caves. There's many hiding places for animals. As far as the eyes can see, it's either green or brown. Anyway, I was traveling towards the mountain and had already walked about 20 minutes and took some pictures of things and selfies and kept walking at a slow pace. I reached the mountain, but there was a dip on the right side and water flowing through, so I decided to check it out and get a pic or two. I walked down the slope and jumped over boulders and reached the bottom, and I felt a little tired. And I looked up and saw the mountain was going to be a hard task, so I decided to sit down and have something to eat. I went over to a flat surface that had green grass, and I sat down, put my bag down, and put my head down. And as soon as I did, I heard growling coming from a bush. And it was a wall bush, so I didn't think nothing of it, but it did again. So I got up and went over and looked at the bush, but heard and saw nothing. I walked back to my spot, and again a growl and some other weird noise. I picked up a small branch and prodded at the bush, and something was actually growling, so I used the branch to move the bush, but saw nothing. I was about to give up when I saw two yellow eyes looking my way, and I thought, of course, it's an animal, and it popped its head out a little, so I walked backwards, not wanting to be close to it, and it came out, and this thing looked deformed. And I couldn't work out why. It looked that way, with its legs being that shape and length, so I made some noises to attract it, not to be afraid because it was small and looked nervous. I chucked some food at it, hoping it would eat it, and this is where it got weird. Got weird. Oh boy. It picked up the food the same as a human would pick up something with their hands. My heart was starting to beat excitedly, but I was still excited about seeing this thing at the same time. He said, this must be an animal that lives here, and I decided to take it home with me, so I chucked some more food and took one step towards it, and it screamed loud. I know it sounds crazy, but it screamed like a woman. I was in sheer shock and confusion because wolf or dogs don't scream like that. I realized this is something else, and I looked it over, and its legs were longer than its other two legs, like double the size, and because it was using its front legs to pick the food up, I assumed that these were its arms. The hands were spindly and crooked and looked thin, and it had black ends. It had a tail, and its chest was different compared to dogs or wolves, like it was more broad. Its posture was weird. It had small hair around its shoulders and around its head, and running down its front, and all other hair was even shorter. It had a wide muzzle and yellow eyes. The face was like a wolf or a dog mix, and had small pointy ears with a few strands on top of the ears. Its teeth were like that of a dog, maybe a little smaller. It was also black in color. The head was bigger than its body. It was around 1 foot or so tall, sitting, and its weight, I couldn't tell, but maybe under 25 pounds. Legs at the back, I couldn't tell properly yet because it was sitting, leaning forward. It sat up straight, and at this point I walked up to it and tried to pet it, but it started screaming and it stood up like a man. I saw the entire body, and the legs were shorter and at an angle. I thought it might get down on all 4 legs, but it started walking on 2 legs, and now its height was around 3 foot tall. And I didn't know what to think, so I tried to hold it, but it was screaming, and I noticed a limp on its right leg. I followed it to see where it goes and gave it some food, and it took it in its hands and carried on walking. I tried to pick it up, but it snapped at me, so I gave up. It's probably a good thing. And that's when I realized something is very, very wrong, because I couldn't hear anything at all. No birds, no insects, none of that stuff. It was silent. I decided to walk away and leave it be, but before that I realized I had my camera and took it out and looked up, and there standing was something I never believed in and would never have thought I would come face to face with in my life. This day I believed in everything I once thought was just stories. My entire life flashed before me, and I just cried in a panic, took a step back, and fell over. This thing I call a werewolf was looking at the little one with food in its hand. It looked really angry. I don't know what happened, but I woke up and it was dark, and then it all came back. I was out for a very long time. I looked up and it was gone, but the thing is, I was left in a different spot, and my bags were left beside me. This thing I call a werewolf at the time is what you people call a dog man. It stood at least 9 to 10 foot tall and was black in color, the same as the little one. It was almost the same as the little one, but it was so scary looking. It was built like a bodybuilder with bulging muscles like a man, but many times bigger and wider. Its legs were humongous and built for speed and strength. I knew this thing was the apex of the forest. It was really hairy, but you could see the muscles flexing. It had sharp nails that were black, and it also had to weigh about 1,000 to 1,200 pounds, if not more, and its eyes were yellow. If I had to relate it to a film, it would be The Underworld Werewolf. I don't know why it let me live. Maybe because I fed the little one, or it knew I wasn't a threat. I don't know if it was a female or male, because I was in a different spot. I assume it left me there so I would be safe from animals. I don't know why the government doesn't tell people these exist. I've never gone to the place again, and I've been having PTSD and nightmares of this for a very long time. There's nothing to take one of these. There's good and bad in every animal and human, so please don't judge these animals as all bad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's another story of one of these cryptid beasts that evidently stretch across the world. This gentleman saw a werewolf in Kashmir, a foreign country to all of us. And the thing that gets me is, why'd this thing leave not killing? Was it because he was feeding the little one? Or was it because he was not a threat to either one of them? We don't know. But we do know he's still alive today because it took pity upon him and didn't see him as food. If it did, it decided not to eat him, either because of the little one or because he was no threat to it. These things are across the world. Bigfoot is across the world. How many other cryptids are there in this world? Those are all questions we all want answered. And one of these days we'll get our answers. So today that will conclude this video, and I thank you all for coming and watching. I hope you enjoy it, and if you get a chance, go look at Kashmir's Daily Vlogs and tell him I sent you. And everybody stay safe and stay away from this flu that they're calling coronavirus. May God bless each and every one of you. Bye-bye.